Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Horvath, leader of the Ontario NDP and the official opposition here in our province. And I'm really pleased to be able to have a chat with you folks today about something that is extremely important, and that is housing affordability in our province. We all know that the cost of housing of all sorts is climbing exponentially, and it's having real impacts on everyday people. Folks are having to walk away from their dreams of home ownership. They are having to walk away from wanting to, be successful in getting a home in their own neighborhood, getting a home close to work, and that lack of hope is becoming worse and worse. The idea that people are actually going to be able to own their own home or afford their own home is getting further and further away. And that's something that we need to address, and I think that we can address. We've watched the skyrocketing house prices, particularly. People are forced out of communities. That people are staying at home with their families longer. Young people are not able to leave the family home and strike out on their own. Families are even delaying, or in some cases deciding not to have children because they don't feel that they can accommodate a growing family. And these are decisions that nobody should have to be making in a province like Ontario. The young people in this province have been completely priced out of the market for the most part. And this isn't a new problem. Housing has been a problem for a long time in our province. We've watched as successive governments have not successfully addressed the cost of housing and the ability for people to not only afford a home to purchase, but a home to rent. And things have become much, much worse, particularly worse under this government, in my opinion, as we've watched things like 25% rent increases, pushing people out of rental accommodations. And that's just not something that should be happening. I do want to submit that some of the decisions of this particular government have been problematic and have made things worse in many regards. For example, the Ford government cut the housing program in this province by $161 million in the 2019-2020 budget. And that's an austerity measure that has continued under this government. And if we see this government reelected, we'll just get more of the same. That's not what we need. The projections of the Financial Accountability Office show that as the current government projects out for the next 10 years, these same kinds of measures are going to be implemented. What we do need, I think, though, is a value statement around housing. And our value statement as New Democrats is that housing is a human right. People should be able to be housed. We're talking about the fundamental thing that people need to build the rest of their lives. If you don't have an affordable and appropriate roof over your head, how do you achieve anything in life? And how do you successfully study and obtain a degree at a university or a certificate at college? How do you start a family? How do you even keep a job if you don't have a proper place to live? There's just no doubt that housing is a human right, and we need to make sure that we are addressing the fact that so many people are unhoused, underhoused, or unable to find the kind of housing that allows them to meet their potential. So I think that we also need to recognize that the housing crisis that we're in is a crisis of both supply and demand. And that's something that's an underpinning in the work that we've done. We already have a platform plank, if you want to call it that, on housing, and it's something that we're really proud of, because what it does is that what we've been doing is acknowledging that some of the solutions that are at play are great, but we need private sector solutions as well as public sector solutions to the housing crisis that we now find ourselves in. And I know that the Housing Task Force has done some work and put forward some vital recommendations that are going to be helpful in addressing the crisis, but I think it's also important to identify that that supply only solutions based on the private market, although are critical, can't do it alone in terms of solving our housing crisis. So our Homes You Can Afford plan tackles the crisis from multiple angles. It looks at supply, it looks at demand, and what it does is commit to ensuring that people have hope, that they have hope, and they can have a roof over their head, either through home ownership or rental, and build a good life here in our province. And so we need to absolutely increase supply. I think that's something that the Premier has mentioned, that we need to increase supply, and I would agree that we need to increase supply. We need to also, while we're doing that, protect home buyers better in terms of the laws around home purchase and the Tarion system. That needs to be addressed. But what we need to be very, very thoughtful about is how we increase the supply, where we increase the supply. How do we make sure that that supply is accessible to people who are searching for their first home? So we know that existing communities have space in which we can provide more housing, and we need to take advantage of that. We shouldn't be paving over farmland. Farmland will never come back once you've paved over it. We can't be continuing down the path of creating more costly, unsustainable sprawl. We can't cover the municipal costs in the first place at the municipal level. And so we need to make sure that when we talk about supply and increasing supply, that we do that in a responsible way that's realistic in terms of other goals and other obligations. And I'm thinking particularly around climate change. But we also need to work with municipalities and make sure that outdated zoning laws are changed, outdated planning policies are dealt with. We have to make sure, and I know this is something many of you would agree with, we have to make sure that we're encouraging that missing middle housing that we've talked about for a couple of years now, making sure that we get more duplexes, more townhouses, help people get their foot in the door. And we need to do that in existing neighborhoods as well as other kind of innovative types of housing. We've talked about things like basement apartments and laneway houses and granny flats for some time now. We actually need to make sure that we're putting in place the policies and the opportunities to help people to actually achieve that kind of housing in existing neighborhoods. We also have something called the Green New Democratic Deal. So we absolutely have the Homes You Can Afford piece, but we also have the Green New Democratic Deal. And what that talks about is making sure that people can renovate existing homes to make them more energy efficient and help with the climate crisis as well. Our plan in terms of our home buyers incentives, helping people with that down payment, which we know is getting bigger and bigger as we go with the shared equity loan, is something that we need to address. We also need to get the speculation out of the market. And I was just talking to the media about that a minute ago after question period. We have to get the speculation out of the market. And so, yes, we're talking about speculation taxes. We're talking about loopholes, increasing non-residential speculation taxes from 15 to 20%, BC style speculation and vacancy taxes on residential properties. We have to preserve over the long term our rental supply, and we have to regulate short-term rentals like Airbnb. All of these things are in our plan. But we also have to look at the fact that there are many people that are never going to be able to afford a home. And so we do commit to going back to building social housing, real affordable housing for people in deep core need. I think I've run out of time and I've had a number of other points to make. So I'm really happy to have this conversation. We need to keep it up. Thank you.